What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Ranger Talk video here, and I'm talking with some special folks this time around. Some 80s melodic rock, synth wave metal. I'm sure they could describe it better, but they're rock stars. It's none other than Shaft of Steel. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Hey,
Going.
nice to meet you at last. Really pleased to be here.
No, yeah, same here. Very nice to meet, face to face, if you will, and chat. So thank you guys so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I guess first and foremost, if y'all don't mind kind of going around the room and introducing yourselves and letting everyone know what's your role in the band. And I see a furry friend
Yeah,
cameo over there in
in.
the Awesome. Is that the band mascot that was over there?
Yeah, I think he wants to be if he could.
Fluffy tail, but yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm Alex. I'm the guitarist in Shaft of Steel, and I produce the records and mix and master and all of that business and write the music. So that's me.
Cool. I'm Dom Saws. I'm the bassist and backing vocalist, and kind of do all the grisly shit underneath that kind of gets overlooked. So yeah, that's me. And I'm Mike. I play the drums. I'm lucky enough to be the rhythm section with Dom and to sit behind the rest of these amazing guys in this band.
Sweet. So Dom, is Swords your legal last name?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's Irish. It's family names. I know. Yeah. I feel like I should be like a spy or a doctor or something, or like doing something more epic with the name. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Or in the band like Twilight Force or something, out there.
Yeah.
Just that's
My
awesome.
Guardian is my favorite. So
Yeah. But yeah, awesome. So that's super cool. And how did the band originally form up, and how long's it been now? It's been a handful of years y'all have been around, right?
Yeah, this is going to identify exactly how old we are, I'm afraid. We do try to hide this. The long and the short answer to that, well, the short answer rather is 2004. That's how long this band's been around in one form or another. Technically earlier, if you count the band I had in school with our guitarist Adam. Some of those songs are still knocking around in Shaft of Steel today. But we formed in Scarborough, which is on the northeast coast of England. It's where three of us in the band currently. Myself, our singer Rob, Mike here on the drums. We all went to uni there, college if you're in the States, university here in the UK. So yeah, it was a little arts campus of Hull University, based on the coast, and we all met there on the course. I met Rob straight away just in the bar at Freshers Week, and he saw my Dream Theater hat that I was wearing, and we struck up a conversation. And Mike was playing in a few other bands during our time at uni, and we used to play gigs together with various bands that Mike was in. And actually, in the third year, our drummer at the time was double booked, and Mike stepped in for our final gig at university, and obviously we stayed in touch since, and Mike rejoined a few years back after Garth, said drummer, moved back home from London. So we're all based in London these days. It's gone through different forms, different styles, very different styles over the years. We started off purely as a power metal band, so it's apt that we're talking to the power metal ranger because we do love our power metal. So yeah, we changed quite a lot, and after university, we all went our separate ways. But then I started up my old band again with Adam and Dom here. Actually, Dom grew up over the road from me, so our families lived over the road from each other in the Lake District. and Dom joined, and then we were playing gigs around Cumbria, the northwest of England, before once again going our separate ways. Dom went off to uni, I went to do a master's, but we both ended up in Leeds, and at one point living on the same road again, entirely randomly. So there's just some strange coincidences that have happened over the years. Anyway, fast forward, we're down here now, and the band is very, very different.
Wow, that's so cool how y'all have just kind of always been intertwined in one way or another, whether it's at university together or playing gigs together or living across the street from each other randomly like twice. It's just really, really neat how that's all kind of worked, and y'all have formed up after, all these years, still rocking and rolling, with Shaft of Steel. But so you said it went through various stages. That's fascinating. It started out as a power metal band.
Yeah, it did indeed. Well, so Shaft of Steel absolutely 100% started off as a power metal band. Prior to that, I was in a band called Acrimonious Anguish, with our other guitarist Adam Carruthers, my mate from school, and we were a melodic death band. So it was all In Flames, Soilwork, Children of Bodom. All the, we're talking 2001, 2002, when all the amazing stuff was coming out of the Nordic countries. Children of Bodom just released Follow the Reaper, and In Flames had just released Clayman, and you had Nightwish. Obviously, we'll move on to the power metal stuff, but Nightwish had just released Century Child, and this was just such an amazing period for metal, and that's what we were really into at the time. And it did sort of over the course of 2 years morph into a power metal band, because I started listening to Gamma Ray, Halloween, Blind Guardian, Manowar. I love Manowar so much. And that's really, how the band started. I moved to Scarborough to university, and obviously had to start up a new band, and I had all these songs written with the old band. And then I met Rob. But I love progressive metal, but specifically Dream Theater, Threshold, great UK band. Rob met me in the bar, our student union bar at uni, saw the Dream Theater hat, we got talking, and then, we formed a band, and it was very much just taking those songs I had and, reworking them a little bit. With various members, but we had a common love of power metal, more so than prog metal. We did have a few prog influences on the first EP that Shaft of Steel brought out in 2014. Some of those hung over a little bit onto the second album, but power metal was definitely the first love, and also a shared love of the 80s, which does tie into what we're doing now. So again, I think part of the reason I got on so well with Rob, and we struck up this songwriting partnership, was that he loved artists like Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins, and for me, I love all that stuff, and if you listen to sort of all the keyboard sounds that were on our first EP and album, that CP80 Yamaha electric piano sound, which is just peppers all of Peter Gabriel's stuff from So particularly onwards. That's the sound I probably love the most on the keyboard. So I was very much wanting to integrate that in. So yeah, you're probably getting a sense of, we kind of take bits from here, take bits from there. But then another thing happened. So yeah, we graduated, all had to go our separate ways. I moved back to my hometown, and we started up Acrimonious Anguish again, me and Adam, and a few mates knocking around in Kendal. And it was these songs that had morphed into power metal in Shaft of Steel then became metalcore. So then we started introducing more influences from the likes of Killswitch Engage, Under Oath, but particularly Funeral for a Friend. Absolutely fantastic band. I love Funeral for a Friend so much. It's a bit of a tongue twister. I'm not sure how that came out. Funeral for a Friend. But they're a cracking band. And so all these power metal bands were obviously a huge influence at uni. But then I was you know, kind of taking those songs in a different direction, and we were very much focusing on the sort of screamo metalcore. Yeah, things got quite wild there, but
You were making the songs angry.
yeah,
Let's make
well,
them
I think
angry.
we were all quite angry young men anyway. But you know, some would say we still are, but maybe you mellow with age. I don't know, but yeah, these songs just went on a whole journey, and then yeah, over time moved again. So you move, but the songs stay with you. You get involved in other things. I was playing in a pop punk band for a very short period when I was in Leeds. That didn't really take off, and then I thought, do you know what? It's like we need to get this back on track. I'm going to give Rob a shout. And at the time, Rob was living in Germany, so you know, power metal, Germany, good country to be in. So Rob was living and working over there. So you know, we did a lot of stuff over Dropbox long before you know, remote recording really became a thing. We were sending ideas back and forth, recording songs that we never really recorded properly when we were together for 3 years as a band at university. You know, and recording technology had moved on quite a bit in those years following our graduation, and you know, we'd invested in better gear, better microphones, plugins, that sort of thing. And we're able to actually, you know, finally do justice to some of these songs that maybe we hadn't been able to in the past. And then it was really a case of saying, you know, okay, we've got these recordings, we need to assemble a band. I moved to London then, and it just so happened that Garth, who was our drummer at university before Mike filled in, he was down here as well. He had literally moved down to London about 3 weeks before I had. We'd both moved down here for work. So Garth got involved. Our old bassist from uni got involved as well. Adam, my friend from Acrimonious Anguish, he got involved. And my friend Chris, who's still with us on keyboards. Yeah, he was really into Dream Theater. You know, Jordan Rudess, a big influence on him, and having a keyboard player like Chris in the band who's really into all of the synth stuff really helps, especially, you know, where we are now. So we were knocking around for a few years in London rehearsing. A brilliant rehearsal studio here called The Joint, which sadly is no longer with us thanks to COVID. A lot of these places disappeared. But for many years, it was great because for all the guys who weren't living in London, they could nip down on the train and, you know, spend a few hours, come down to London. We'd blast through a load of songs, you know, 4 to 6 hours on a Saturday, and then head to the pub and drink a lot and eat a burger. Eat a burger, apart from those of us in the band who were vegan. You know, we were just having a great time, and yeah. But then, you know, the EP we were putting together got finished. We ended up working with Dennis Ward, Pink Cream 69, Chimera, Unisonic, Plas Vendome, all that, you know, the guy who was like basically the in-house Frontiers music producer for they were called Frontiers Records back then, but you know, he was the guy. And I was really into a band called Eden's Curse at the time, and Dennis Ward had produced, mixed and mastered all of their stuff. You know, and then I kind of picked up on the fact that he was very good at backing vocals, so got in touch with him to see if he, you know, would be interested in working with an unsigned band like us. And he heard the music, and you know, he agreed, and he gave us a very good deal. So you know, we had the first EP mastered and featuring backing vocals by Dennis Ward, which was, you know, really big deal at the time. So that enabled us to get inroads into the area that we've been operating for quite a while, the AOR melodic rock world, and journalists started to pick up on us then after that first EP. Anyway, I've talked for a very long time, so please feel free to interject.
No, that's fascinating. So I guess it was at that point where it really just kind of established, okay, we're going to do some AOR melodic rock style. That's what the band is going to be going forward.
Yeah, I think the involvement with Dennis Ward and the fact that magazines like Power Play magazine and Fireworks magazine picked up on us, it kind of perked my interest a little bit more in that world. To be quite honest, I wasn't even aware that there was a modern AOR genre. Like, I think a lot of people who've reviewed us have said we were influenced by bands like Shy, and honestly, I'd never heard Shy by the time our first EP came out. We happened on that sound because of like our love of stuff like Peter Gabriel and our love of power metal and primarily Iron Maiden. So if you kind of take Iron Maiden and then Peter Gabriel for the keyboard sounds and maybe a little bit of Journey for the chorus sort of thing, that's how we ended up on that sound. So we were getting called melodic rock, and we were very much calling ourselves melodic metal because that's what we felt we were. But all the journalists were calling it melodic rock or AOR. So I thought, I better take a look at this then. And then I realized, that there was a whole world there. I was aware of like some of this stuff, like through getting into Eden's Curse and finding out about Dennis Ward. And I loved Jorn Land. Like that guy he's superb. The stuff he did with Avantasia, but very, very much like his own solo stuff. He's a superb vocalist, and the musicians and songwriters he's worked with over the years as well, all fantastic. So, we were at that point, and then I thought, okay, let's investigate what's going on, and then you find out, okay, this label Frontiers Records and AOR Heaven and other labels, other smaller labels were putting out stuff which essentially sounded like 80s heavy rock music, and it was still popular seemingly, and there were still music festivals that people were attending, and it seemed like okay, that maybe there's like a legitimate area for us to go down here. We're making this music which we didn't realize other people are making similar music to, so maybe this is where we fit in. Because I didn't think we did fit in, and it seemed like maybe we did. So that's how we ended up going in that. I wouldn't say that direction, because very much the influences that we had already were the things that were driving the songwriting. But I ended up listening a lot to Harum Scarum, to Strange Ways, and those bands are phenomenal songwriters in those bands, and those bands and FM as well, like the first couple of FM albums. Those things had an influence over the stuff that ended up on our debut album, Steel Heartbeat. But still, mainly Iron Maiden was the thing that was the biggest influence. They're my favorite band. We all love Maiden in the band, and the riffs and the guitar solos and the harmonies, the guitar harmonies, those sort of things, was still like kind of the main thing. But yeah, that's how we ended up in the AOR world.
That's so cool. And so Dom and Michael, how did you all feel about that direction, or when specifically did you guys jump on board, and what do you think of the sound? Because were either of you there for the EP or the debut full-length album?
So I joined in 2016, so I joined after the first EP had come out, but before the debut album came. So I'm the baby of the band, so I'm a little bit younger than the rest of the guys. So as Alex said before, like I grew up across the street from him, but I joined Acrimonious Anguish in like 2007. So that was when we did like the kind of the metalcore power metal sort of phase.
Gotcha.
And, so I was played with Alex and Adam for a couple of years, and then, as Alex said, we all kind of went our separate ways. And then originally I was down as like a stand-in for a gig. The bassist at the time couldn't play a show, and Alex obviously I'd worked with him before, and he will you cover for this gig? And I was like, oh, definitely. Hadn't played for a couple of years, so I listened to the EP and I was like, holy shit, this is brilliant. So I was really excited about getting back on board with it. And then I think it worked out, been quite a good fit. And then I lifted up the rock and heard this amazing genre that like I had never heard of before, and then straight away I found bands like Heat and One Desire and Shiraz Lane and all these like brilliant sort of melodic rock like AOR bands and Work of Art and stuff, and I was like,
oh, Work of Art.
Yeah, so I just just went down this absolute rabbit hole of like amazing music. And then obviously that was where the kind of debut album was headed, so I was really stoked to be on board with it. And then so that was, I think, 2016 I think was when I joined. And then obviously like the sounds more recently has kind of shifted. But again, you know, discovering all this kind of synthwave music, and I'm like, oh my god, like the Midnight, these they're incredible.
Yeah.
So it's really cool because it's like, you know, we, like Alex is saying, we still have these like massive influences from like Iron Maiden and, you know, the kind of like power metal, like heavy metal bands, but then, you know, it crosses over with loads of different genre. I mean, my favorite band is him, like Vilvallo, which is a total wild card.
Nice.
So like it's compared to like, you know, the kind of rest of the bands, it's more like, you know, kind of pop rock stuff, like pop metal.
Gothic rock. Yeah,
but like crazy big melodies. I mean, you know, like I grew up on stuff like Bon Jovi and like Michael Jackson, the kind of more like poppy pop rock elements, big stadium stuff. So it's really cool because like whenever Alex will come and say like, oh, I've got like, you know, this idea for a song, and I'll hear like a demo of something. I'm like, yeah, great, can't wait. That's how when Back to Me was in the process of writing, I was really excited about that one. So when it came time for the music video, I was like, right, let's do something for this, because this is a big track. So let's make sure we run with this. And that kind of, I guess, not to speak for everyone, but that for me kind of like kickstarted it again, because COVID is really tough. So like it was for musicians everywhere. And the album had just come out like about 2 weeks before COVID kicked off in the UK. So it was probably like the worst time in history, because, you know, we had a couple of shows lined up, and, you know, it was all disappointing when that fell through. So, you know, after putting all that work in, it was, you know, a bit dejecting to be like, oh, it's, you know, back to square one. So when we were kind of like sort of feeling it was going in a new direction with this, like, you know, what we're now coining as like metal wave, it was like, oh, sweet, we've got something here. And it just kind of gave everyone a boost. But anyway, I'll let Mike talk now, so I'm not rambling. But yeah, that's my Shaft of Steel experience anyway. So
that's awesome.
Much the same for me as it was for Dom. I think 2018, and it was just purely by keeping in touch with Alex and the guys. So like Alex said, at uni, we would play gigs together. I was in other bands with some of my mates, one of my like best mates from school that I was always in a band with. We grew up sort of in a different, you know, where I was more like hardcore bands, you know, I was in like Hatebreed, into them.
Wow, yeah.
Well, you know, real old school Bane, and we'd go to these basements and just, you know, that was our scene. And then as we've developed, I went to uni and I joined a band, and it was more melodic. It was sort of like we would write 11-minute songs, like Mogwai type soundscape tracks like that. And then so I was just in touch with these guys, and then fast forward to 2018, I think Alex puts the thing up on Facebook saying Garth's leaving, anyone interested? And I was like, yeah, one of the best shows I did was when I filled in for these guys. I absolutely loved what they were doing, but hadn't really been that involved with them since. So I dropped Alex a message and I said, yeah, I'm interested. So what can I do? And he sent me over the EP and some of the tracks that were going to go, some of the ideas that were going to go onto the new album. And I learned them and I was listening to them and I was like, this is great. This is so sort of different to what it was at uni. I love where they're going. And then, yeah, went down to King's Cross with the guys, played for 3 or 4 hours and went for a beer afterwards. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy. And I think the guys were happy as well. And that was it, really. So it sort of developed from there. And then, as Dom said, the Lift the Rock and this whole world of other bands and other music was just there, and it was the genre that I never knew that I was missing, you know, and ever since then you just go deep dive into more and more bands, and yeah, it's incredible, and I absolutely love it. And as I say, it's very different to where I grew up, you know, playing originally. But then it also goes back to, like, my parents are both really musical. My mum was like massively into disco. My dad used to DJ at you know, nightclubs back in the 70s and the 80s. So that music has always been a massive part of my life. So now when we are moving into this synthwave and metal wave genre, and it's massively 80s influence, it just comes so naturally. It just sounds like, yeah, this is my world. This is my musical history. And I'm now bringing all of my influences that I've had over the years together. And it's just a great place to be in, a great band to be in.
That's so cool. Yeah, you know, hearing all of the influences and how it's all kind of led up to the sound now. It's just fascinating, you know, with the power metal, the melodic rock, the AOR, the and now synthwave joining. It's just really cool. You guys are really carving your own niche, you know. I think, you know, because Alex, I know how you kind of mentioned you sort of stumbled upon this AOR melodic rock scene that you didn't even really know existed. And it's like, oh yeah, there are some other bands that do this sort of thing, but you guys are still really kind of carving out your own sound. It's not like a cookie cutter, you know, which is really, really neat, especially now diving into synthwave and really making your sound even more 80s, but with like the power metal influences, not forsaking like guitars, not forsaking like the, you know, acoustic drums, not just going like full electronic or anything like that. It's really neat, and it's really different. I think that's what's really capturing people's attention, especially now with the two latest singles from the new album, or that you guys are working on. And it's just really cool. So I know you kind of mentioned after you dropped the debut full-length album, and then you kind of decided to kind of go synthwave. How did you discover the synthwave scene, and what made you think like, you know what, let's do like this metal wave and really have this 80s synth sound, but with this kind of driven power metal kind of vibe with the guitars and these great choruses like the melodic rock, like.
Well, yeah, so things have changed again. You know, this is a theme with the band Shaft of Steel. We're constantly changing. I think we've finally settled on something that we're going to be doing for quite a while, though.
Okay, there we go, folks. You have it. Yeah.
Yeah, people seem to like what we're doing more so than ever right at the moment. So it's maybe been worth the last 3 years of pain and misery that COVID inflicted upon us. So yeah, I'll give you just sort of a condensed overview.
Well, real quick, I just want to say, can you imagine being a fan of Shaft of Steel for like all these years and being like never knowing what you're gonna get, because it's just always different.
Yeah, it's a tough ask, but
do you have fans that are still with y'all? And like,
we do, yes.
I like this. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, I remember all the names. So when I see people liking the posts on Facebook and Instagram, and I remember them from back in 2014 when the EP came out. I'm still in touch with some of them over email.
Awesome.
It's been really good. You know, we have got a small but dedicated fan base, and now it's growing, thankfully. Because we really thought when the album came out that was going to be the thing that elevated us to the next level. Because, you know, like this is what you're told when you're a musician growing up. You know, you see the landscape of the music industry, and you're just aware that bands get signed, and then, you know, a record label gives you some sort of support and elevates you to a platform. That doesn't work that way, though, especially these days. You know, the record labels, they're few and far between, especially in, you know, the genre that we were primarily operating in, which was AOR. You know, there's very few left now, including ours. But, you know, we were signed to AOR Heaven, and then, you know, within a year of our album coming out, they announced their closure. So it just, you know, we thought, you know, finally, we've got a record deal, great, you know, we've made it, this is going to be the big
we've hit the big time, boys.
Yeah, we've hit the big time, and just, you know, things just didn't work out, you know, for one reason or another. But, you know, a large factor in that was that, you know, COVID happened. The tours that we were booked onto, the festivals that we were going to play, got cancelled, or not cancelled, you know, indefinitely rescheduled, and, you know, promises were made which were never fulfilled, sadly. So when things started opening up again and the possibilities of doing tours and festivals came back, we were old news. And, you know, we had an album that was a year and a half old. You know, we were old news. We weren't current. So it was a bit of a kick in the teeth, because your debut album is the thing that, you know, you put your life's work into. And, you know, it's the thing that you're so proud of, and you want to go out and show the world, you want to go out and tour it. but no one will book you because, you know, your review in the magazine, which might have been a 9 out of 10 or whatever, was a year and a half ago. And like I say, you're old news. So, you know, that was quite a tough one. And, you know, COVID was obviously very, very difficult period for everyone, especially musicians. You know, we felt it more than most. And, you know, I am a full-time musician. You know, I do session work and I teach. That's what I do.
That's your livelihood. Yeah.
That's my life. Yeah. So to have that ripped away from me, I was absolutely furious. So the synthwave thing was a real blessing, and I'll tell you why. For years, I have two very good friends, Simeon and Phil, and they were hugely into synthwave. And they kept telling me, there's this genre that you'd really like. There's this genre that you'd really like. You should probably check it out. And I had actually, I picked up a CD years ago. I was down in London, not living here, but I was visiting my brother. And we went in the Rough Trade record store in East London, and there was this thing playing on the speaker system, which sounded like Power Windows by Rush, like all the keyboard sounds from Power Windows, which is Rush's best album, obviously, because of all the keyboards. And it was this guy called Anorak. It was a French electro synth artist. And I got it, and I got into a few bands that were on the label Valerie. There was a band called College. And at the time, like, well, it was not a band again, it's just a guy. At the time, it wasn't a big deal. It was like this thing that was like cool in France, but not really a big deal. And I listened to them and I was like, yeah, this is great. I love all of this kind of 80s synth stuff, but I never went anywhere with it. You know, I moved to Leeds after that, and was playing in a pop punk band. So I didn't think anything of it. You fast forward a few years, College was the guy who soundtracked Drive. You know, that film was hugely, monumentally influential on synthwave. And I think, in fact, the Midnight themselves were influenced by watching that film.
Phenomenal soundtrack. Oh,
yeah. So so it's interesting. So again, you know, just this thing which I knew that existed, but I didn't think was kind of a big deal, and something that I hadn't really put the effort in seeking out more of it. You know, it seemed that this French synth electro stuff had developed into something else, and my friends kept telling me, check out synthwave, and I was just like, well, 80s music exists. It can't, you know. I love 80s music. Why would I listen to stuff that sounds like 80s, but when the 80s don't exist? You know? It's a stupid thing to say, really, because, you know, I was making music that was influenced by the 80s, and I'd want people to listen to Shaft of Steel, melodic rock, Journey sounding Iron Maiden hybrid, which was obviously still massively 80s. But, you know, I just, for some reason, you know, at the time, I was just kind of wasn't feeling like I should bother. And I wasn't fucking stupid, because, you know, you fast forward to literally just before when our debut album came out, I met up with these guys over Christmas. And honestly, Christmas 2019 was like the best Christmas ever. You know, I was back home, you know, with my family and friends. I knew I had this album coming out in a few months. I was able to tell everyone about it, and, you know, was just really positive, like 2020 is going to be the best year ever. 2020,
blissfully unaware.
Yeah. So I was all like, okay, I've got a bit of downtime over Christmas before I have to start worrying about promoting this album. So let's check out this synthwave. It's like, okay, yeah, Le Brock are good. Okay, yeah, the Midnight are good. Okay, yeah, Prism are good. And I just started listening to all these playlists on Spotify, and all these recommendations started coming my way. You know, the likes of Nina and Time Cop and all of these superb synthwave artists. And I was hooked on it, but playing in an AOR band. So I had to have some sort of creative outlet during COVID, because we weren't able to tour. And I really resented what a lot of people were saying to us. Like, everyone was saying, you need to write another album. You need to write another album. And how many fucking shit albums came out in 2020 and 2021 because people had rush produced, rush released albums, and we weren't going to do that. I thought, no, I'm not doing this. We've got a brand new album that we haven't even toured yet, so we started thinking.
It's definitely an era of the COVID albums.
Yeah, there's so many COVID albums, and, you know, the quality speaks for itself. But we thought, oh, we'll do some covers, and the idea was we were going to do a covers EP. So we passed around some ideas over Zoom and Facebook and stuff while we were all self-isolating, or whatever it was we were supposed to be doing at the time, and we were putting together this huge list of stuff that, like, from the 80s and 90s, stuff that we liked when we were kids, that was on the radio when we were kids. And we started building up a list of stuff that might work as Shaft of Steel songs. And anyway, 2 of those songs from that list, and we know there are others that we started making that we've still got demos of, which may see the light of day at some point, was Torn by Natalie Imbruglia, and
nice.
Yeah, Stay by Shakespeare's Sister. So 2 massive songs, from the early 90s and the later period of the 90s. As much as we keep talking about the 80s, the 90s were great as well. That's when we grew up.
No,
absolutely. We're 80s children, I was born in,
same here.
Born in the mid 80s, nice one. And born in the mid 80s, but very much growing up in the 90s. So that's that music. When I hear any 90s music on the radio now, even the boy bands and the girl bands at the time that I didn't like, because I was like, I want to listen to real music. That stuff was quality. It was great stuff, classic stuff. So Natalie Imbruglia, we did that, and that came out after a little bit of downtime, given that the album would come out and we went quite quiet because we were all quite disenfranchised with our experience of releasing a debut album. It hadn't worked out the way any of us had hoped or expected. So that was just a fun little project to do, to just announce to people we are still here. Don't forget about us. And then we did this cover of Stay with Janie Smith from Iconic Eye. They were also signed to AOR Heaven, which is no longer around. But Janie's a superb singer, and that turned out really well. We were really happy with that. But at the same time, I was still trying to do stuff for myself, to keep myself sort of musically fulfilled. I know that sounds really pretentious, but if you are a musician, things do get stale if you just keep kind of doing similar things. Sure. So I was making my own synthwave music. I'm self-releasing my own synthwave music. So I put an instrumental out, which didn't really get much traction. It's quite hard when you're just putting something out as essentially a new artist on your own without any sort of funding, any backing. But I did all right, actually, just for a little instrumental thing. But then I was really getting into synthwave and finding out about all these singers, artists, bands, and I found this female singer, producer, songwriter in New Zealand, JJ Mist. She is so good. Like, she's got an album that she released a few years ago, which basically sounds like Madonna, 5-star, classic 80s pop stuff, mid to late 80s pop stuff. And I heard her singing, and I thought, I can write a song for her. I don't know if she'll want to do it. Why would she? I'm nobody in that genre. Yeah. But I wrote a piece of music, and I sent her the demo, and she was in. We worked on that. We released that, and then New Retro Wave, which is by far and away the biggest YouTube channel, like by 1.4 million subscribers or something like that. New Retro Wave picked up on it, featured it on their channel, and I was just like, oh, thank God, that someone has done this and has given exposure to my music and has reinvigorated my love of music making. Wonderful. My music is out there, touching people, not in an inappropriate way, but touching people throughout the world. The music,
their musical soul.
Yeah, exactly. Reaching in and touching, that's a power metal lyric almost. But that kind of really, gave me a little second wind, reinvigoration. Yeah. So there must have been a eureka moment at somewhere when I thought, at some point, let's combine these two things together. So I'll have my synthwave thing here. I've got my metal band, melodic rock band. Let's do it. Let's do this, and two things together. And I was just happy that everyone else in the band thought it was a good idea, because if they hadn't have done, we wouldn't have done it. But I think if we hadn't have done this change of direction, I won't say change of direction, because the song, the underlying song ideas, melody, harmony, structure, largely quite similar, but obviously it's the sounds, it's the synths, the effects, the atmospheres, all of these other things, drum machines. Yeah, they've all kind of combined to create this new thing. So I'm very happy with where we are at the moment, because we've, like you say, we've had these 2 songs come out, Back to Me and 1,000 Nights, and yeah, they're picking up the listens. You know, they're people are liking what we're doing. Guys like yourself are doing reaction videos, which, you know, a few years ago I didn't even know reaction videos were a thing, and like this is such a big deal for us. So we have to thank you personally for getting us a few new fans. You know, it's been wonderful that you picked us up, and we're really happy for that.
No, I mean, my pleasure, and one of the things that brings me just the greatest joy is, first and foremost, I just love music, you know, obviously in general, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. And I love kind of finding the artists that aren't necessarily, yes, I cover the big artists too, of course, but I really enjoy covering the artists that aren't necessarily quite as well known. And when I do a song like that, and I see in the comments, you know, some of my usual, you know, viewers or followers and people saying, oh man, this rocks, I gotta look into this more or whatnot, and they're kind of discovering a new band through my discovering of a new band. It's just awesome, you know. I just really love that. And so it's kind of me sharing in the experience with other people. So yeah, when I stumbled upon you guys and did the reaction, well, first I listened to Back to Me off channel. I think I even said this in my reaction. I listened to that off channel. I kind of forget how I even came across you guys.
Yeah. How did you discover us, by the way?
You know, it's hard. A lot of that becomes a blur because I'm constantly going through like the YouTube. I'm getting recommendations. I see stuff on Instagram. You know, I even get stuff from like promoters and stuff like that in email. So it gets difficult for me to remember or pinpoint exactly where, but somewhere in my journey, I saw you guys and saw it was described as like a metal wave or like this. And I was like, huh, you know, this sounds interesting, but I'm not quite sure what to expect. So before I feature the band, let me just give this song a listen and see what I think. That's what I'll do a lot of times if I'm not quite sure what to expect, if it'll be something that my viewers might like or whatnot. So I listened to Back to Me. I was like, dude, this is some good stuff here. If they drop another song, I'm definitely going to do a reaction. I think that was at that point, I probably started following you guys on Instagram because I was like, I want to keep up with these guys. When I saw you did release the new song, I was like, I'm definitely reacting to this one because I dug, you know, the first one. And yeah, it's like also a killer song. And people just on my channel alone, I could see that it's resonating really, really well. And a lot of people too were like, oh, I had to go listen to their other single, Back to Me, and that rocks too. So, you know, people are just really, really digging the sound. And, you know, it's just really, really cool. Just that fusion, you know. And one thing I was going to say, Alex, is how you were talking about how there is a similar sound with, you know, if you listen to the debut full-length album, which I did. I went back and I listened to that, and I was like, you know, like there's a lot of similarities there. It's not like a huge jump in style, but there is that nuance there, like how you're saying, kind of with the atmosphere and some of the different sounds, and but like it definitely still feels like that Shaft of Steel, you know, from the debut full-length album. Just a little bit of an evolution there. And that's just really cool. And how do you handle, like with the songwriting, how do you decide, like, all right, how much synth are we going to put in here? How are we going to utilize the drums, you know, or are we going to use a lot of just electronic kind of beats? Or are we going to do like, you know, using all acoustic? How much metal are we going to put in here? Are we going to have really driven, you know, guitar melodies here? Or, I mean, how do you work? These are quite different styles that you're kind of fusing. So how do you find that right balance? Because it works, but it seems like it's not easy. Huh?
Stoked for you to hear the new track then in that case. Like we've got a new one coming out soon, so I can't wait.
All right, reaction. It'll definitely get a reaction, that's for sure. I'm stoked now.
Yeah, no, I heard, well, I mean, I think when I was recording the backing vocals for 1,000 Nights, Alex's couple of weeks back, he kind of dropped the teaser at the new one that he'd been working on, and I was like, okay, cool. It's just like, okay, like, but just like how you're saying, it's like, how did you come up with that? I was just like, yeah, this is good, this is fun, this is really awesome. But it's just like, yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
kudos to Alex. I'm no writer, so yeah, root notes and rhythm, smile and look happy. So
this might not come as a surprise, or maybe it will. All of the songs start live on the keyboard, so the riffs are very much a big part of Shaft of Steel. I'll come on to that, but normally I sit down over there in front of my stage piano and I'll noodle around with some chord progressions and melodies and stuff, and then I might happen upon something that I like, and I'll go into Cubase and I'll put in some chords. I'll maybe find a synth sound that I like, and a drum pattern. I'll either program something in my drum machine, or I'll program it in Cubase. And then, so basically, currently how things work is that things basically start live sounding very, very synth-wavy, because you've got a drum machine and synth, or anything else is in the mix whatsoever. But the guitar riffs are such an important part of what we do, and this is, why I'm glad we've moved a little bit away from the AOR world, because I think, earlier in our conversation, you talked about stuff sounding quite similar. And, I just notice a lot of power chords these days. I hate to say
very
it, but
easy to be samey.
I've fallen out of love a little bit with kind of the area we were working in, because I've heard it all before at this point. And there's bands that I still love. If Work of Art would tour, I'd be there. Wherever if they played the Antarctic, I'd go and see them there. I would love that. But there's a lot of kind of factory line. I think you guys would call it cookie cutter stuff. We don't say cookies in the UK. Yeah. Biscuits.
Biscuit-Cutter.
Biscuit-Cutter music. Yeah. And it's just all the same, and it's quite lazy as well, because it's just like dang, dang, dang. It's like, oh God, if I want power chords, I'll listen to Green Day. Come on, it's insane. So it's got to have a nice riff. I'm not, that's not to say power chords don't have a place in music, because obviously, no, absolutely. Iron Maiden, absolutely love Iron Maiden, but Maiden can write riffs. Maiden can write riffs. And the best band ever. So obviously, if we're writing guitar parts, if I'm writing a guitar riff or something, especially solos. So guitar solos. Adrian Smith, my number one influence as a guitar player. That guy is amazing. Technical, tasty stuff. Not overly showy, but he's understated. But the technicality of his playing and the melody of his playing. Some guys in the metal world, it's all technical. There's no melody. It's whittle, 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 and there's no melody. There's no feeling in the playing. And Adrian Smith has just got everything. So he's the guy that kind of is the main influence for me. Richie Sambora as well. Dom was talking about Bon Jovi before. He's a great player, and in terms of melodic ideas, those sorts of guitarists are the ones that I'm influenced by. Mainly, so the melodies this is, you might have heard this story before from other people on your channel, but melodies often come to me at the most inconvenient of times. So some people talk about like having a dream and having a song idea in a dream and waking up and having to write something down or sing into the phone. It's normally when I'm washing the dishes, so I'll be there just cleaning a plate or something, although I'll have an idea in my head, and then I'll have to get the phone out and be like, just singing the melody down into the phone like Randy Marsh. It's so then I'll think I better do something with that. So I've got the idea, and then it's just like trying to translate that. But the guitar riffs, they come a little bit later, and then when I've got a demo pretty much finished, at least for the verse and the intro, the verse and the chorus, usually the middle eight section, or the bridge if you're in the States, the middle eight, that comes later. So I normally send Rob an intro, a verse and a chorus, a verse and another chorus, and then and say, there you go, what do you think of that? Can you write something over it? Sometimes I've already got a chorus, like like Dom was talking about, the one we're working on at the moment. I had a chorus melody and basically most of the words, so that goes onto the demo, and then you say, have at it, do what you want.
Do your thing. Awesome.
Yeah, but I think this is why, to go back to your earlier point, there is similarity between the EP, the album, and the singles we've put out that will be on another album in the hopefully near future, however long it takes us. It's me and Rob. Rob writes the words, I write the music, and it just works. It's very hard to find someone like that who just without you even telling them, they come up with something that was almost like what you'd imagined in your head, but better. So
wonderful.
I'm not a lyric writer. I can't write lyrics for shit. If I had, you look at the credits of the debut album and the EP, I have written lyrics, but normally choruses, I can write a nice catchy chorus lyric, memorable words. But in terms of, I'm not that sort of person who wants to bare my soul to the entire world and, write stuff about love and longing and all of that stuff. I can do dragons, I could do power metal lyrics, I can do dragons and eagles, that sort of stuff. But basically,
there's been a few times. I think there's been a few times where we've talked about this, Alex, when we're like, like, oh yeah, how's Rob getting on with the lyrics? And I'll message Rob and he'll be like, oh, what's this about? And he's just like, nah, it's just love song in it, and you'll just it's like, all right, like any context. And he's like, no, it's just a love song, mate. You'll hear it in a couple of days, and you're like, all right, cool, yeah. Where'd you come up with that? I don't know, just did it. You're like, all right,
sat there and did it. Yeah,
he's just got a knack for it. He's just got.
It's good like that.
He's
just
awesome. He turns it around really quickly though as well. So like with I wish he was here to join us, but when he's doing the lyric stuff, like he'll normally like Alex says, he'll share like a record like a voice note or something, and occasionally I'll wake up to like a voice recording from Rob, and it'll just be him just singing down the phone at me, and I'm like, oh, okay, right, morning. So but yeah,
he's got a killer voice, man. That's one thing I want to say. It suits the music so well too, because he can really express the emotion and his delivery. It's one thing to be a great vocalist, like sound wise, but you also have to have that delivery to really take it and take it to the next level, and not just sound good, but to deliver everything to really enhance the song.
Thank you. He'll be very pleased to hear that. He's not your standard kind of melodic hard rock AOR vocalist. There's more subtleties to his voice, and I think actually within the synthwave genre, his vocals would fit very well. I think because he can do the emotion, the sort of sensitivity, that sort of thing, which the big belters, don't quite deliver when you're like, that you can't kind of talk about heartbreak and stuff when you sound. Okay. I was going to say when you sound like you're Rocky Balboa, but let's be quite honest here. The Rocky IV soundtrack is, the Rocky IV training montage is the greatest piece of music of all time. But the kind of the 80s glam rock vocal thing, which is quite prevalent in today's AOR world, just wouldn't work for our music. It wouldn't. There'd be nothing unique about us. So, well, maybe there would with the synths. He's got something which is unique and it works for him and it works for us. So I'm chuffed.
Yeah, I think I saw a comment once on YouTube where it said he got compared to like Michael Kiske, I think, from, is it Halloween? And I was like, oh,
wow,
sick.
That's one heck of a compliment.
Yeah. But then, so it's cool because like he can, absolutely nail that like kind of power metal style singing, and then he can also transition into the synthwave stuff that we're now, or like metal wave that we're now going into. So he's really fun to do like vocal harmonies with as well. Like we have a lot of like frustrating sessions, but they always come good at the end. But it's he is good to work with the doing the backing vocals and stuff. It's always good fun. So
Awesome. Yeah, he's definitely got that range where you can definitely hear that power metal quality to it. But then, you know, he can just do what needs to be done to where it doesn't sound like, why is this dude like singing power metal on like a synthwave track? You know, like he manages it really well to where you hear that quality. You know, he brings like a certain touch of it, but and just that emotion delivery, that's something I feel like you can't teach. You know, you can teach someone to sing to sound good, but to bring in that emotional aspect, to really convey the lyrics and deliver everything, you know, dynamically. I just feel like that's something that you just, it's in you, you know, that you have to really express it. But I don't know.
Yeah,
Again,
well,
that's
Rob grew up listening to Michael Bolton, so that might
oh,
explain
nice.
a few things. Yeah, yeah. Again, amazing
There you go.
vocalist. So
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. So yeah, so you kind of create like the basis there, and then you send the demo, the intro, the verses and chorus and stuff to everybody, and then Dominic and Michael and everyone, they kind of take it and they add their flavor to it. They say, all right, cool, this is what I'm gonna put, this is what I'm feeling, you know, for my portion.
Yeah, so I think what usually happens is to say I'll do the demo with all the parts on, and you know, after Rob's written a verse and a chorus, I'll normally then get an idea like, okay, now I know where this is going to go in the middle. So you'll write the chord progression for the middle eight, and the guitar solo will follow, final chorus, and then at that point you've got a full demo with like MIDI drums that I've played in on the keyboard, and MIDI bass or bass that I've recorded myself here. Then it'll go to everyone, and then at that point, you know, the guys will sit with it for a few weeks, and then they'll send me their ideas. So especially, you know, a big, a big thing for me is having Mike in the band. You know, such a quality drummer who, you know, has interesting drum fills and nice rhythmic ideas. And you know, I am a drummer myself, but you know, not to the level that Mike is. I've been playing for a number of years, but I live in London, and you know, no one's got room for a drum kit here. You know, it's like any big city. You know, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
No, I haven't played for years, so you know, having Mike is just phenomenal. So you know, Mike can tell you a little bit about his approach and how things change.
It's a real pleasure. So, you know, I feel like I'm in a really lucky position because I get to hear these songs before anyone else. So we talk about it, and I maybe heard some, you know, hints and some ideas, and then you get a demo, and the first thing in my head is, right, don't fuck this up because it's sounding great already. Like, what can I do to just build on this? And that's always the battle, isn't it? Like, you know, I first started playing drums because of Nirvana, Dave Grohl, and you know, that was my first influence. I was 14 years old. I got the Nevermind album, and just that powerhouse, just laying those things down, nice and simple. And then as I grew up over the years, I turned probably more into a Lars kind of character, just doing fills every other bar. And what you have to do with this band, and the way I approach it, is I just try and play for the song. I know that sounds quite simple, you know, you've got to play for the song, but I think if you don't, because there's so much going on in these songs, if you're playing things to showcase yourself and not what the song needs, then you're just going to steamroller the whole thing. And that for me is the primary focus when I'm first listening to these songs. I'm thinking, right, where rhythmically is this going, and what can I do to just build on what Alex has already laid down? And then as you go through, you think, okay, well, I'll maybe add something here or something here. And sometimes, I mean, like Thousand Nights is the perfect example. I heard that song, and what I wanted to do just hit me immediately. And there was very little changes went into that from the moment I first started listening to it to the tracks I actually laid down for it, because it just didn't need anything fancy. It just needed a nice, simple, that chorus is so, you know, powerful and driven that I just thought, right, I just need to go back to my roots here. Nice, simple, powerful, you know, big chorus rhythm, very simple fills coming in and out of it. And that's all it needed. You know, it didn't need loads of fancy stuff. It just needed to be something for that song that would just really drive that chorus home. And that to date is probably my favorite song that we do. And I can't wait until we get to play that live, because, you know, that is going to be a big one. Definitely.
Sweet. That's so cool that, you know, how you said you play for the song and not to just showcase your abilities, you know, because that would pull focus away. And I mean, that just shows restraint, I guess, as like a musician and an artist, to not showcase yourself, but to best enhance the song.
Being in this band is such a privilege. One of the first things that hit me when I joined and met the you know, obviously I knew Alex and Rob from uni, but when I met the other guys, I thought they are fantastic musicians. And it was almost like, well, now I've got to up my game, you know, because if I'm going to be in a band with these guys, and the honor that is, then I need to make sure I'm on the top of my game as well. And I think it has, as a musician, it's really forced me to get better, and to, yeah, like we said, just make sure I'm playing for the songs, because there's so much that goes on. And like I said, I don't want to steamroller across everything Alex is doing, and everything needs the space to breathe, and the synth parts. And then you've got these amazing guitar riffs, especially, you know, when Adam and Alex are playing together, and you think, okay, I'm just going to sit now in the pocket with Dom, listen to what the bass is doing, and try and get that link together, you know, that we can just drive it home and just let the guys do their thing. And then when it's our time to shine, then great. And I think as a drummer, that's definitely something over the years that's matured in my playing, and this band has really brought that out. So yeah, as I say, it's great, and adding parts to the things that Alex and Rob come up with is just easy. It's a joy, real pleasure.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so cool that all of you kind of collaborate. Once Alex really sets the foundation and puts things together, then everyone gets to contribute and add their 2 cents, and that's just really, really neat. But yeah, I mean, it's just really, really exciting, really, really cool to hear about the entire history of the band and just see the evolution. And now is the best time to jump on board the Shaft of Steel train, you know, if you will, as a fan or follower, because it seems like big things are really, really happening. You know, you guys have really honed in on a great sound, and seems like you guys like the sound and it's working. And so, yeah, I mean, 2 singles out already from the new album y'all are working on, and a 3rd one on the way, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, we've got some. So we've definitely got a 3rd one on the way, and I think we've got some like bigger plans for like possible EP going on there. But yeah, it just depends how the next few months goes. We've got a few shows coming up, which is
Sweet.
a big deal for us. So thing is, we all live and work in like different ends of the country. So, you know, getting us all together in one place is quite tricky. So we're pretty stoked for these shows, because it's been a while since we played live. So I can think at the moment it's focus on the shows, and then yeah, maybe towards the end of the year hopefully we'll be able to get an EP out, which would be great. So, but yeah,
All right,
just
sweet.
let's see how it goes.
So yeah, but regardless, I mean, just content, you know, it will be coming for sure. So folks need to get on board with that. You know, it's, speaking of which, everyone, I'm going to be putting all of the Shaft of Steel social media stuff, links to the 2 singles, all that's going to be in the description down below. So if you haven't heard their music yet, you go check out the singles, and then the full-length album, all that good stuff, and then follow them on social media, because you heard, I mean, they're working on stuff. There's more stuff on the way. They're playing some shows, so if you're lucky enough to be close by, you can go check them out. But yeah, follow them so you can stay up to date with all things Shaft of Steel. And yeah, and thank you guys again for taking the time to chat. I really, really enjoyed this. A fascinating history and fascinating or exciting direction y'all are going in here. And again, like I said before, it's just a great time to either be a Shaft of Steel fan or to become a Shaft of Steel fan. So
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
It's been awesome to talk to you, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for the support and all the kind words. And we're really lucky to have you as a fan. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you guys. And I'll be doing a reaction, folks. So stay tuned for whenever they drop this new song that Dominic has really raised my expectations now. So I'm really jazzed for this one. So I'm doing a reaction. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. And I'll catch you all next time. Ranger out.